What's up, guys? Today we're going to be working on the S10 some more. We're going to get started on the inner fenders where I had to modify them, smoothing them out, doing some body work so that we can get them back on the truck. So let's get to it. Alright, so if you can see behind me, that's the driver's side fender. Here's where I added a piece in, right here. And also this line here is where I cut it to narrow it a bit. So I got to smooth some of that stuff out and just body work it, get it looking nice. Mike's here today, Clayton's coming down. They're going to be working on the engine, but of course that's a separate video. I'm going to get a flap wheel out and smooth out all these welds, and then I'm going to add a thin coat of fiberglass to seal it up and then start doing some body work. You can see it's all smoothed out now, and then I also smoothed it out more along here, and then there's some here and here. So what I'm going to use is, this is fiberglass. This is actually long strand. Probably better to use the short strand stuff, but this is what I got, so I'll just use it. I'm basically using it just to seal the welds. So I'm going to put a thin layer just pretty much right along everywhere that it was welded, just to seal it. And then on the inside here, I'm going to use like a seam sealer or urethane in here to seal it up good, and then just paint this black again. So I'm going to mix up a little bit of this fiberglass and apply it. Just gonna push it into the weld pretty much, just to help seal it up. Contrary to what you may see on some YouTube channels, you cannot make your whole car of this stuff, though some try. So this will seal up the welds, plus it'll also give you a base. You know, if it's not level between the two pieces that you're joining together. But like here where it's pretty flat, it says you're just, I want to seal any little gaps in the welds, keep the moisture out. Plus, like I said, you're also kind of leveling it out at the same time. The smoother you get it on there, the less sanding gotta do. You also have a decent amount of time to work with this stuff, depending on how much harder you put it, if you follow the directions. But then that also depends on how warm it is, like where you are in your garage or outside. The warmer it is outside, the faster it's going to cure. And obviously the colder it is, the longer it takes. Alright, so that's pretty much on. We're going to let it dry and then we'll smooth her up. I got her all fiberglassed up. It's all dry. So now what I'm going to do is just take a flap wheel and smooth it out. So with the flap wheel, I'll end up taking off most of the material. Pretty much this is just to smooth out any like really low spots, help fill it in, plus fill in any like little gaps between the welds, just to seal it up. And then once I do that, I'll add a coat of filler and then let that dry and sand that down and hopefully make it nice and smooth without having to put too much filler on. Like I said before, I pretty much took most of the fiberglass off, just enough to seal it up. Any like little low spots, you know, here there's a little bit of difference in the height, so that kind of filled it in a little bit. And then I'll put a coat of filler on. There it is with the first coat. Of course, that's just the first coat on this piece. I didn't have enough to put on these couple spots. I know I'm gonna have to add more here already for sure. Here I'm not quite sure, but I'm gonna sand this and then we'll see if we have to add another coat or not. All right, so now you can see after that first coat sanded, here's actually really nice. It was a little high here, so I actually ended up having to grind it down a bit. Most of the rest of it's pretty good. I still obviously have to do these parts. And then I definitely need to put another coat here. I figure from this little line I just drew right here, this part here down to here is the really important where you can really see it when it's in the truck. This thing here, the power brake booster is covering it. And of course down here, it's all covered by the charge tubes and stuff. I'll put another coat on and sand it, and hopefully maybe this next coat will be it. And then I can just fine sand it, prime it, and it'll be ready for paint. All right, so there it is, all sanded now. I still gotta sand these couple little spots, but that's nothing. Quick sand on those. And there it's nice and smooth now. And that's sanded with 80 grit, and then I sanded it with 150 on top. And so now I'm gonna put like 2 or 3 coats of primer on it. I'll probably let it dry overnight, and then tomorrow when I come out, I'll sand it with some like 280 grit hopefully that'll fill in any scratches and minor imperfections. And if not, I have like a spot filler that I can use to fill any of that small stuff in, and then she'll be ready to paint. So I'm gonna paint it now and then let her dry. What I ended up doing is I primered the fender, a couple coats. I let that dry, and then I put 2 coats of like a flat black as also like as a primer on there. I sanded it out with 280 grit, just take some of the fine scratches out of it. So that's kind of how it looks right now. What I'm gonna do now is I'm actually gonna mask it off, and I'm gonna paint this edge of the fender here and down the front with the blue paint like the dash is. I'm gonna paint it so that it looks nice. Obviously I'm not painting the truck, the outside of the truck, but I wanna paint the edge of the fenders, the edge of, so that when you pop the hood, then it kind of looks finished. So I have the paint, I'm just gonna mask a bit more, and then I'm gonna spray that. I got the silver on. So you can see I even did the edge there, and I did this edge too. So the paint that I'm using is it's actually this stuff here, Duplicolor Metal Cast. And this is the ground coat, they call it. And then the actual color is, well, the color is faded obviously, but it's blue. And that's what I painted the dash with and everything. It actually turns out really nice. So now that the silver's dry, I'm gonna paint the blue. Once the blue's dry, then I can paint the inner fender black, and it'll be ready to go on the truck. All right, so after 3 coats of paint, that's how it looks. Wow, 4 coats. 1 coat of the silver, and then 3 coats of the blue. Actually, this paint is pretty amazing. It goes on like super shiny, and you'd almost swear it was like real car paint. I mean, my dash looks like it was painted professionally, and it was just painted with this spray can stuff. You see, it looks like really nice. Now while that is drying, I'm gonna switch up and start on something else. I received my fuel pump in the mail yesterday. It's a Walbro 450. I got off eBay. And so here's the old one. So I'm gonna remove the pump, and then I gotta take it all apart because I have to, like I said before, I have to fit in a piece of like this and solder it in there. So I'm gonna start taking that apart and then figure out how I'm gonna solder this tube in there. There's nothing wrong with this pump. Like I said, this is a Walbro, or I guess it's made by Walbro, 255 pump. I'm definitely gonna save that for a spare one. And I noticed this metal ring is pretty beat up, so I'm gonna have to go, it's actually cracked, so right here. So I might have to see about getting a new one, or I can just weld this together, sandblast it, and then weld it. I mean, otherwise it's good, other than being cracked. So I'll have to look at that. Basically what I have to do is I have to take this return line thing out of there, and I gotta fit this in there and solder it in. So I'm gonna have to figure out exactly what I have to do here, and how much more I can disassemble this thing. I wanted to get this wiring out of there because the last time when I had to fix this other tube, it started to catch on fire and melt, which I didn't want to do, obviously. So this just goes through here. It's got slots, so it goes a certain way. And then there's just this metal clip, and it's one of those clips that are kind of slotted, if you can see that. And so when it pushes down, it spreads out and it locks it in place. So I just carefully took a flat screwdriver and I slowly worked it out. Careful not to break it. So now I got that off, that off. This is going to have to stay on, obviously, because I can't really take that off. But that was the important stuff. Now I'm going to clean this up. Probably put it in the sandblaster, clean it up really good. Then I got to cut this tube off, fit this one, and then solder it back in. So I'm going to do that. So there it is, all painted. Painted the black. Blue's painted. I have to run a piece of welding rod through this hole, comes out this hole, and then I'm going to have to run the wires for like the headlights and also the electric fan through there. So I'm hoping I can clamp it onto this wire and then be able to pull it through. So that's what I'm going to try to do right now. Should be able to just put the fender on. That'll be a bit of a pain here. Getting the fender on is not too bad. It's just, now I have to kind of hold it. And I gotta get this table out of here. Not going to be quite as easy as it seems, right? Never is. Okay, there, we're pretty much on. Pain in the ass part is the wiring has to be pulled through, which I got it through now, so it should be pretty good. I just got to get the bolt, one bolt in there to hold it. Alright, pretty much that's it. She's on. Just now find some bolts, bolt it all up. Of course, now that I painted all this, I'll have to paint the bolts to match. That's one fender down, one to go. Let's get back to that fuel pump, I guess. I cut it off, and then this actually came loose. This goes like this. Basically, it lines up pretty much with that one, like that. And then the fuel pump goes onto here, and this is just your return. But they all kind of get zip tied together. Originally, I guess there was a clamp holding it. So what I've done here, this is the piece I want to replace it with. Well, no, it's over there actually. But what I'm going to do, I drilled it so it's a really tight fit. And then this tube actually will slide, this one, it slides inside this tube. So then I'll have to solder it here. And then I'll solder it up at the top, just like I did this one. This one was pretty messy because I had to do it like, now I sandblasted. I did it in the truck. No, not in the truck, but the way I did it, it was messy, but it didn't leak, so it was good. So I have to do that with this one, and then we should be good. So that's what I'm going to do now, is start fitting all this and get ready to solder. This is the new piece that I have to put in with the fitting on it. And actually this tube was the perfect size for the stock return line to go inside each other. And then I just used the torch and solder, just like plumbing, soldered it together. Now I'm going to slide this on to where it needs to go. I have a measurement to make sure the measurement's right. And then I'm going to solder this to this. And then it'll be done, and just put it back together.
Live stream, like from behind the scenes, you can see how it all comes together.
All right, so now I got it soldered. I don't know if you can see, but I soldered the two pieces together there. And then I fit it in here, and I soldered it in there. Now it's all tight and good. Put the wires back in. Now I just got to mount the fuel pump and put it back in the truck. Okay, so as you can see, I have it all back in now. And here's the return line that goes to that piece I put in. Feed line, vent, and then this vent here. Wiring's all hooked up. And so pretty much the fuel pump went on just like the stock one did. There was no modifications to be done there. So the fuel pump is all in now. This fender is on, all bolted on now. Maybe some minor adjustments need to be made on it still, but for the most part it's done. So hopefully next time I'll get working on the other fender and start doing some more things, other things that need to be done on the truck. So like always, like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and we'll check you later.